At a public leadership forum, my uncle announced, "Some of us are born leaders, some of us are born followers. Guess which she is?" I smiled as everyone chuckled. I waited 14 years, rose to global power, and when his final project needed critical funding, I denied it personally in writing, with his full name on the rejection letter. His career ended with a whimper, his investments crashed, and his grandchildren now live in the shadow of his downfall. This happened over years. It didn't start with some master plan for revenge. It started with a moment that stuck in my gut. A moment I replayed every time I doubted myself. And in the end, it turned into something I never expected: the complete, slow destruction of the man who once laughed at me in front of a room full of leaders. Let me take you back to 2010. Austin, Texas. I was 23, just out of college, interning for a nonprofit focused on civic leadership. I was the kind of person who volunteered to stay late, took notes no one read, and did tasks others passed over. I wasn't flashy. I didn't speak up much. I was hungry to learn, but I didn't think I was anyone special yet. My uncle Charles was the opposite. Charles was the type who filled a room just by walking in. He had a laugh that made people turn, a voice that knew how to land a punchline. People said he could talk a fish out of water. He was deep into city politics, not elected, but always behind the scenes, always advising, always getting things done. He had fingers in every project that mattered. He invited me to this big public forum. It was a leadership summit, something meant to bring together thinkers, city officials, and influencers. I helped with prep work, putting together speaker packets, printing badges, setting chairs. I didn't expect anyone to notice me, but Charles noticed. Just not in the way you hope family notices you. There were maybe 300 people in that auditorium. The panel was up on the stage. Charles sat right in the middle. He was confident. That fake kind of humble that powerful men wear like cologne. Halfway through the session, someone asked the panel a question about leadership development. I don't remember the exact question, just the answer. Charles smiled, leaned into the mic and said, "Some people are born leaders. Some people are born followers." Then he turned his head and locked eyes with me. Guess which one she is? Laughter. The kind people do when they know they shouldn't, but can't help themselves. Polite. Uneasy. Like they were trying to gauge how I'd take it. I didn't cry. I smiled. I gave the smallest nod, like I was in on the joke. I made it through the rest of the day. I even shook hands and said thank you. But the truth is, something in me broke, and something else woke up. That night I went home and stared at the ceiling until morning. Not angry yet. Just hollow. But I never forgot. The next few years I kept my head down. I worked. I took jobs where I was invisible. I moved to Denver. Got my master's in urban development. I stayed quiet in meetings. Let louder people take the spotlight. But I studied. I paid attention. I learned who had real power, and who just liked hearing their own voice. Charles didn't know what I was doing. We spoke less and less. He was still tied up in Texas, chasing new development projects, sitting on boards, giving interviews. He thought I'd drifted into nonprofit work, the kind he liked to mock when he thought I couldn't hear him. What he didn't know was that by the time I was 31, I was controlling million-dollar portfolios for urban resilience programs. By 34, I was managing international partnerships. Not famous, but effective. By 36, I had co-founded a global urban climate fund. We didn't just give out grants. We picked which cities got built, what projects got greenlit, who became a success and who didn't. That was when I started to watch for him again. In early 2024, I saw an article with his name in the local business section. Skyline Riverfront Project seeks major investment for San Antonio redevelopment. He was back in the game. He had spent the past few years securing land, forming a development group, and pitching a bold vision of luxury housing, transit corridors, and waterfront parks. He wanted this to be his legacy. His name was all over the public statements. Guiding visionary, primary stakeholder. And guess who he needed funding from? That's right. Our fund was the only one in the region with enough capital and environmental credibility to attract additional investors. Without us, nothing could move forward. His team sent the proposal under a generic email. Probably didn't even know who would read it. But I saw it. And I waited. I didn't deny the project right away. That would have been too easy. Instead, I asked my team to engage. We sent follow-up questions. Asked for more financial clarity. We suggested a technical review. His team scrambled to adjust their numbers, cleaned up the environmental impact statements, and even revised the zoning plans. I knew what I was doing. I wanted him to believe this was real. I wanted him to lean in, to stake more of his money, his reputation, his name. About 3 weeks later, we scheduled a stakeholder review call. My associate ran it, but I was listening silently on the line. Charles didn't know I was there. I recognized his voice immediately. Same confident tone. Same way of talking, like everyone else was an assistant. He even joked on the call. "We're excited to work with your fund." Whoever's running the ship over there clearly understands real leadership. My hands clenched so hard my knuckles cracked. Around week 6, our audit team flagged a few things. Nothing illegal but shady. Some projections were padded. One of the key contractors had a history of cost overruns. There was even a side letter suggesting Charles would earn a personal bonus if the deal closed above a certain number. That's when I stepped in officially. I had a call scheduled with the funding board. I presented the facts. I told them this wasn't just a risky project, it was a reputation risk. The board agreed. We drafted the denial. That night, I stayed late in the office. The lights were off except for my desk lamp. I pulled up the rejection letter template and typed slowly, carefully. I used our standard rejection language, but I made sure one part stood out. Reviewed and rejected by executive director. My full name. Then I added one more sentence at the bottom. "We wish you the best in your future efforts." That was the line that broke him, I think. That "best wishes, cold, professional, final." The email went out the next morning. He must have opened it within minutes. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. His number. I stared at it. I let it go to voicemail. 2 hours after that, an email popped up in my inbox. Short. Sharp.
No greeting.
Was this necessary? I didn't reply. We knew how it would play out. Once our fund rejected it, the other major backers backed away. No one wanted to be the only one left holding the bag. His local contacts got cold. City support started to falter. One by one, the parts of the deal fell apart. I watched the press slowly turn. At first they said delays. Then, financial gaps. Then finally, the Skyline Riverfront project has officially been scrapped after failing to secure key investment. He never made another public appearance. His company folded. The LLC behind the project dissolved. He tried to pitch new ideas later that year, but no one returned his calls. His name became a warning. I didn't celebrate. I didn't go around telling people. But I did see the fallout. His social media went quiet. No new speeches. No more board appointments. Just silence. And one day, a small thing popped up on Google Alerts, a community meeting video from Austin. They introduced a guest speaker, Charles, formerly involved in urban planning. He sat in the back of the room, gray hair, slouched shoulders, waiting to talk about zoning codes like it mattered. His voice cracked when he spoke. Not because he was old, but because he knew he used to matter and now he didn't. About 6 months after the collapse, I got an unexpected message from an old college friend, Jacob, someone I hadn't spoken to since I moved to Denver. He used to be a TA with me back in the Leadership Initiative days, the same group where Charles humiliated me. His message was short. "Hey, weird question. Did you really shut down Charles's project? Word is going around." I stared at that message a long time. I hadn't told anyone. Not even my closest colleague at the fund knew the personal backstory. It had been just me and that letter. I replied, "Who's saying that?" His response chilled me. "Someone from Charles's old advisory team. Apparently, he's telling people you sabotaged the project because of family beef." I laughed at first. Sabotage? I followed protocol. We documented everything. But then I realized what this meant. He was spinning it. He was trying to rewrite the story. Make me the villain. Protect his pride. Even in his fall, he couldn't admit the truth that his arrogance cost him everything. That I didn't ruin him. He did. 3 weeks later, I got a notice from the fund's general counsel. An anonymous complaint had been filed. Said I had a personal conflict of interest in the Skyline riverfront denial. That I had a grudge and used my position to destroy a legitimate project. They had no real evidence. But Charles had apparently whispered to enough people that someone took the bait. Maybe a former staffer of his. Maybe a competitor. Maybe Charles himself pretending to be someone else. The board launched a review. I had to sit through interviews, hand over my communications, explain my history with the project. I didn't flinch. I had dotted every I, crossed every T. No personal notes. No direct contact. I had followed policy to the letter. I even had my assistant confirm I recused myself from early-stage discussions just to be cautious. It all came back clean. Still, I saw the looks in a few board members' eyes afterward. The way one of them asked, "Was there really no personal stake here?" I just said, "There's a difference between personal history and professional standards. One can inspire the other. But I don't cross lines." They accepted it. Officially, I was cleared. No wrongdoing. But the damage was there, a quiet doubt. A question that would hang in some minds. Charles hadn't one. But he'd scratched me on the way down. One night, I got a DM request on Instagram. The profile photo was a kid looked like maybe early 20s. His name was Daniel. I recognized the last name immediately. Charles's grandson. I hesitated before opening it. But curiosity got me. Here's what he wrote. "Hey, you probably don't know me, but I'm Charles's grandson. I don't know the full story between you two. I just want you to know. He's not the man he used to be. He talks about that project like it broke him. I don't know if he deserved it. I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm trying to understand." I didn't reply. What could I say? That revenge doesn't always come clean? That sometimes it leaves you cold even when you win? Or that the worst part of all of it wasn't what I did to Charles, but how good it felt to finally be in control? I sat there a long time staring at the message, and I wondered if I had become a version of him, just quieter, smarter. It wasn't over. A year after Skyline's collapse, Charles tried one last time to crawl back into relevance. A think tank in Austin he used to help fund announced a new advisory board on urban equity. His name was on the list. Just one of 10. But still there. That same week, I was invited to speak at a global conference in D.C. I wasn't just attending, I was closing the event. My topic? Long-term accountability in urban investment. Halfway through my speech, I paused. I looked out at the rows of government officials, bankers, developers. And then I said it. We've all seen what happens when influence outweighs impact. When reputation is allowed to erase misconduct. We must stop funding ghosts, people who used to be powerful, but left only bad deals behind. I didn't say his name, but I didn't have to. That video went viral in urban planning circles. Not worldwide viral, but enough. Enough that 2 days later, the think tank quietly removed his name from their website. He was never asked to speak again. 2 months after the conference, I did something I hadn't done before. I wrote Charles directly. Not through email. Not through my office. I sat down, used my personal letterhead, and mailed it to his address, the one in the smaller house he'd moved into after selling his downtown condo. Here's what I wrote. "Charles, you once said I was a follower. In front of a room full of strangers. You made sure I'd never forget it. 14 years later, I returned the favor, not with noise but with power. The kind that doesn't need to explain itself. You underestimated me. You mocked me. And in the end you gave me all the fuel I needed. I didn't ruin you. You did that yourself. But I was proud to hold the door shut while you fell. My name, I didn't hear back. I never expected to." A year later, I was invited to speak at my old nonprofit in Austin, the same leadership group where I got my start. They were holding a reunion for alumni. They asked if I'd do a fireside chat. Talk about my journey. Inspire the next class of leaders. I almost said no. But something in me needed to go back. Full circle. The event was in the same auditorium. Not just the same building. The same room. The chairs were different now. The curtains newer. But the layout was the same. I stood on that stage, looked out at the rows of eager faces, and I remembered exactly where I was sitting when Charles humiliated me. They gave me a mic. I stood in silence for a moment. Then I said, Sometimes the people who laugh at you the loudest are the ones who fear you the most. They see what you could become and they try to kill it before it grows. I didn't name him, but when I walked off stage I felt lighter. Revenge didn't heal me. It made me sharper, stronger, but also harder. I don't trust easily now. I don't let people close. I've turned down relationships, ignored old friends, and lost some softness I used to have. In killing his legacy, I protected mine. But I also became something colder.
Something permanent.
And I still wonder if maybe Charles saw that in me long ago. Maybe that's why he said what he said. But if he feared who I might become, he was right to.